Sounds like a street party to me. Let's remind you once again of our top story. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has postponed a much-anticipated trip to Beijing after a Chinese surveillance balloon was detected in the skies above America. China claims the balloon is carrying out weather research. This is BBC News.
Now on BBC World News, the biggest African and international news stories focus on Africa.
Hello, I'm Peter Okwoche. Welcome to Focus on Africa, our top stories. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed holds a surprise meeting with leaders of the want-away Tigrayan region. Could this be a sign that the peace deal is moving in the right direction? No more war. The Pope delivers an impassioned plea upon his arrival in South Sudan for peace, and his sentiment is echoed by the country's president.
The noble task of peace consolidation and the important projects of reconciliation and forgiveness.
A registration palaver. Many Nigerians left frustrated as they struggle to collect their voter cards for general elections later this month. Also on the program, concerns over the level of racism in the United Kingdom. We hear from the writers of a UN report on the country's failure to address systematic racism against people of African descent here in Britain. And in sports, we build up to the African Nations Championship final on Saturday, which takes place in Algeria. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. In a moment, we'll bring you news of the Pope's visit to South Sudan. But first, in the last hour or so, it's emerged that the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has met top Tigrayan officials for the first time since a peace deal was signed to end a brutal civil war in the country's northernmost region. Pictures released by state media show the Prime Minister and his senior political and military officials sitting down with senior figures from Tigray, including General Tadesse Worede, commander of the Tigray forces, as well as negotiation team members Getachew Reda and General Sadkan Gebretsenay. We will be hoping to talk to our reporter in Addis Ababa later on in this program. No more war, no more bloodshed, no more conflict, no more violence. That's the impassioned plea by Pope Francis today as he called for an end to the tribal and ethnic violence in South Sudan. The pontiff, who is on a historic visit to South Sudan alongside the leaders of the churches of England and Scotland in what's been described as a pilgrimage of peace. He's being joined by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and the religious leaders are championing a message of peace and reconciliation in the war-torn country. South Sudan, the world's youngest country, has experienced tribal violence since independence in 2011, and the visit to Juba comes a day after reports that 27 people were killed in violence in central Equatoria state. More than 60% of the population of South Sudan is estimated to be Christian. Pope Francis made a promise to visit South Sudan in 2019 when in a dramatic peace gesture, he kissed the feet of the country's rival leaders at the Vatican. And the Pope's visit to South Sudan continues until Sunday. Mercy Juma there live in Juba. Thank you very much for the update on that story. Now, as Nigeria gears up for the general elections in just 3 weeks' time, there have been many hiccups in the preparations. Among the complications, the permanent voters' cards registering for the electorate for the ballot on the 25th. Many Nigerians have been told their cards cannot be found and have not been printed, despite numerous allegations that they have. The BBC's Simi Jolaoso sent this report from one collection centre. Still to come here on Focus in Africa, eradicating elephantiasis. We go to Sierra Leone, where the government hopes to end the neglected and stigmatized disease still prevalent in one district. Welcome back. The authorities in Sierra Leone are confident that in a few years they will eliminate the transmission of lymphatic filariasis, commonly known as elephantiasis. They have already eradicated this painful disease in 15 of the country's 16 districts. It is caused by a parasitic worm transmitted by mosquitoes and is one of the so-called neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs. This week, World Neglected Tropical Diseases Day was commemorated to raise awareness on this problem. The BBC's Umaru Fofana went to the only district in Sierra Leone where elephantiasis is still prevalent and sent this report. A UN body has released interim findings from a 10-day fact-finding mission into the state of racism in the UK. The United Nations Working Group visited London, Birmingham, Manchester and Bristol and sent a summary of the recommendations to the government. In it, they expressed extreme concern about what they call the UK's failure to address structural, institutional and systemic racism against people of African descent here in Britain. Let's speak now to Dominique Day. She is one of the 5 members of that working group of experts on people of African descent who took part in the report. Thanks for joining us, Dominique. What exactly did your report find? Okay, Dominique Day, I'm afraid we've run out of time and we'll have to leave it there. She's a member of the UN Working Group on Experts of people with of African descent who live here in the UK. Thank you very much. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. Let's get some sports now. It's the weekend.
It is indeed, Peter. We start with the African Nations Championship, or CHAN. The tournament for locally based players is gearing up for the finals on Saturday. The host Algeria will be taking on Senegal in Algiers. But first, all eyes will be on today's match when Niger take on debutants Madagascar for the 3rd place match. African sports journalist Maher Mezahi previews it for us. Best of luck to them. That's all the sport for now. Peter.
Many thanks indeed, Mimi. And don't forget you can get in touch with me and some of the team on social media. I'm at Okwoche. But for now, that's it from Focus on Africa for the week. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.